Welcome, Fright Night Vault listeners. Tonight, I want you to picture a place that feels ordinary at first, maybe even familiar. A quiet street, a dim porch light, a house that looks like every other house in the neighborhood. But something about it is off. Not enough to make you cross the street, but just enough to keep you from knocking on the door. This is where our story begins, with a house like that. It starts with a letter. No return address, no stamp. Just a single envelope slipped under the door of a man who hasn't spoken to his family in over a decade. Inside, a folded piece of yellowed paper with only one sentence scribbled in fading ink. "You need to come home now." That phrase alone is enough to drag up everything he tried to forget. The creaking attic door, the thing that knocked once from behind the mirror, the whispers in the furnace room that never belonged to anyone living. He thought he left all that behind when he walked away, but the letter was signed in a handwriting he hadn't seen since he was a child. His sister's, the one who died in that house. Since that night, the town forgot about the place. It stood empty, slowly eaten by rot and time. But the lights in the upper window have started turning on again, according to the neighbors. No one sees anyone go in or out. They just light up after midnight. Always the same room, always the same time. He tries to ignore it, to explain it away. But deep down, he knows what this is. Some things don't stay buried, not when they're bound to the walls. And so he returns, not for answers, not for peace, but because something in that house remembers him, and it's finally ready to speak. If you're alone, this is the time to double-check your locks. Make sure no doors are cracked open, and if your hallway mirror looks just a little too dark tonight, maybe don't look into it. The story starts now. When he stepped inside, the air was stale, like the house had been holding its breath for years. Everything was as he remembered, but slightly off, like a reflection in water. The wallpaper had curled from the edges. A child's toy sat in the hallway, untouched but facing the wrong direction. And at the end of the narrow corridor, the old mirror still hung crooked, its surface dusted with grime, except for one clean handprint smeared in the center. He didn't want to go upstairs, but his feet moved anyway. The second floor was colder. Time moved differently here. A soft creak from the far end of the hall reminded him of a childhood rule: never run when the house is watching. He stopped at the room with the light on. The same room the neighbors said they'd seen glowing past midnight. The door was slightly ajar. Inside was her room, his sister's. Everything looked exactly like it had the night she died. The bed untouched, stuffed animals in a line, the record player still half cranked. A deep, scorched ring was burned into the floor beside her nightstand, the place where she'd been found. But the walls, they were wrong. Covered now in small drawings, scratched into the plaster, dozens of eyes, all wide, all watching. He tried to turn away, but the door slammed shut behind him, locked. He turned back to the wall. The eyes were moving. They blinked, slowly, in sequence. One by one, they began to weep. And then her voice, soft, almost a breath. "You left me here. You promised you wouldn't leave me." He dropped to his knees. "I didn't know. I didn't think it was real." She stepped out from behind the mirror. Only it wasn't really her. Her face was cracked, like porcelain, hollow around the eyes. Her limbs moved wrong, stiff and twitching. The thing had worn her skin, but it had never learned how to smile right. She pointed at the floor. The scorched ring had started to glow. "It's your turn now," she said. He backed away, reaching for the window, but it was bricked over from the outside. The light bulb above flickered and popped. Total darkness. And then, movement. Hands, too many to count, gripped him from beneath the bed, dragging him toward the blackened circle. The walls pulsed like they were breathing. Whispered laughter filled the room, overlapping voices he hadn't heard in years. His mother, his father, his sister, all calling him home. The house wasn't haunted. The house was the haunting. It fed on memory, on guilt, on broken promises whispered in childhood closets. As he was pulled into the floor, the mirror flashed one last image: a little boy and girl standing side by side, smiling. And then he was gone. The lights upstairs still turn on sometimes. No one sees who flips the switch. But if you listen close enough on quiet nights, you can hear someone crying inside. Someone new. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more like it, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Fright Night Vault. We release original horror stories every week, just long enough to leave a mark.